Interesting week, Leppa. How have you sort of, there's been a lot of external chatter about you. How have you sort of viewed it?
I probably haven't heard enough of it, to be honest. I heard some stuff that Ross has mentioned, and I know some stuff. Yeah, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't read a lot of it. It probably is the external noise is. There's always two factors to footy, isn't there? There's stuff internal, there's stuff external, but I probably haven't taken as much notice this week, so sorry, mate, you might have caught me on the hop there.
That's all right. But so you don't feel under any more pressure than any other normal week?
Oh, no. I don't see why I should, to be perfectly honest. We're the youngest team in the competition. We've got a long journey in front of us. Probably the pressure comes because, I'm the inexperienced coach out of the lot around the bottom. The guys I share in the bottom part of the ladder with are all experienced, well-credentialed coaches, and I'm not. So that's probably where most of it comes from. I'm a pretty easy target, aren't I, as far as that goes. But that doesn't change the planning and what I need to do as a job. So that's fine.
Do you understand the frustration of the fans, though, that I suppose they probably don't have as long a term of view as you have, and that they are frustrated by the results?
We've got no choice, unfortunately. This game of AFL, there's a system in place in which you acquire talent, and there's one way is to trade all your players in. There's another way to develop those young players, bring them in. But when you do that, you get them at 18 years of age, as we all know, and they're not ready till they're 22. So what do you do in those 4 years? You tell me, you answer those questions. I've got no idea, but normally that means you develop them, keep them, and grow them into mature players, which is what we're doing. So along that comes frustration. The positive for us is that our boys have been highly competitive. We've just skill errors and inaccuracy has really cost us a few extra wins this year, which those things fix the more games you play. So, I know it's hard for our fans at times to not have wins on the board, but we're confident the wins will come, mind you, in the back half of the year. But it's really for us about building a sustained future for the footy club.
You're confident a win will come tomorrow against Freo?
I'm confident every week. I go into every game, even last week against Carlton. We prepared well to win the game. We didn't. We're once again let down early with inaccuracy at goal, and your opposition kicks 16-6 and the scoreboard blows out. So those things can happen, and that's happened a bit for us this year. So we need a bit of luck in that as well, and also a bit of concentration when the important times come that we keep the goals we need to put the scoreboard pressure on the opposition.
Internally then, Leppa, what are you being judged on, or what are you judging yourself on? Is it wins and losses? Is it developing players, or what are the parameters you're being?
Well, a lot of it's about developing and playing our players. I mean, you think about the job that I took over there. We had 5 young boys that left the organisation, so our ability to retain young talent wasn't there. That box has been ticked. And also we had 8 retirements in that time, so we've lost all our experience. So the beauty is we get some good experience back this week in Harris Andrews and Darcy Gardner, 2nd and 3rd year players, but that is our experience coming back in at the moment to help us out. So that's just the facts of the situation. And I think our boys have been holding up really well. The mood within the change rooms is very, very good, very high. So, and morale is very good. So our players do see a future, there's no doubt about it, and that's why they're signing up and staying and committing to the footy club.
They go into their shell a bit against Carlton Leppa in that first quarter when they went sideways and backwards. And when you did take the game on in the third quarter, you actually put some pressure on Carlton. Was that a sign that they lost a bit of confidence?
No, we owned the game the first 10 minutes of that game. We just couldn't score. And the second quarter, we kicked 1-4 and they kicked 4-1. So look, it's sometimes some little things, and obviously we look at the game in a bit more detail than those that comment on it. But there's a lot of little wins there that we did have within that game. We even won the second half of the game. We've won contested possession 2 weeks in a row. We've been working hard on that on the track. We haven't done that for years as a footy club. So these things are the things that build in the background that eventually creates the wins on the field.
You've sort of touched on skills and goal kicking. I guess it all falls in together. It doesn't seem to have improved over a couple of years. Is there anything you can put that down to?
A lot of the time it's getting used to the pressure of the game. Most experienced players have more time and space, and it's the time and space they create, and it's the time and space that their teammates put them in. At the moment we are rushing as a team, and that's generally because we either don't have the time and space, or we think we don't have the time and space that we have, and pressure can create that. So there's many times last week where we had more time than we thought we had, but didn't do it. So that's just the way it comes, and more experience and more exposure does it. I mean, if you want to look at a ladder that, as in a statistical ladder that looks like the AFL ladder, it's age, game, experience. That is it. So it's, if you want to bet on footy, which I don't condone anyone to do, look at that, because that's seriously the North Melbourne most experienced team in the competition. 150 games average, so where are they sitting? So it's not hard to work out a lot of the time the result of games, given this how much exposure each individual has had to AFL footy. So I know I'm dissecting a little bit into what we do in the background, but it's important our fans and the public realise there's some things you can control and there's some things that just take some time. And the one thing that people don't want to give you in this game is time. But unfortunately, as I said before, you get a kid at 18, everyone wants him to be a superstar at 19. It's just not the way it works.
So Justin, it's a case of this building phase will take longer than expected, but how long do fans expect to wait, I suppose?
Depends what you're waiting for.
Results. How long do they wait?
What sort of results are you waiting for?
Wins they need.
A premiership, are you talking? Are you talking finals? Are you talking 6 wins? The difference between 6 wins and 8 wins could be one kick. We feel that we've done the hardest part. We feel we've done, as far as the 34 list changes in the last 3 years, we've got the kids there ready to go to develop, and they'll incrementally increase every year. So our wins will do the same. So will they go up 20% a year, 30% a year? Probably. That's what should happen from this point on. So, but we had to go backwards to go forwards. There's no doubt about it. So, and why? Hopefully I've explained the reasons why we've had to do that as a club, to go backwards with our list and cut it deep and get some first round draft picks into our organisation and start again. That's just the way it was.
Sorry, do you need more out of your more experienced guys like Rich?
It's always helpful when your best players are out there through this build playing well. You'd have to say Zorks is the only one that's been consistently a high performer out there of our senior crew. Obviously Beamsy hasn't been there, Rocky's hardly been there. There's reasons why those guys haven't. But yeah, you always want your best players to be playing at their best. And that hasn't happened, no doubt. But that would be the only little blip I would say for the season so far.
Do you feel like you've been to the bottom and you're on the way up?
Yeah, definitely. When I looked at the list when I first got here, and even last year when we were playing reserves, you're playing a lot of guys you're unsure, you don't think have a future at the footy club. I've got 3 or 4 running around the reserves now that we think are going to be our best players in 3 or 4 years' time. So that's a good sign for the footy club, and that's the stuff what builds long term. The difficulty is there's always an internal view of football and there's the external. I get comments constantly from internal people saying, geez, you're going to have the best goal-to-goal line in about 3 years' time. So they're the sorts of things that the industry knows, but the things externally that, because they're not happening yesterday, that people get frustrated by. But these are the times you'll look back and you'll forget about these times pretty quickly. But if we don't invest in these times, you won't get the glory days either. So.
Does that give you confidence, Leppa, that during your playing career you were probably involved in as many wooden spoons as you were premierships, that you know that the journey is long? Yeah,
I only had one wooden spoon. We were down the bottom a lot.
Roughly.
We're down the bottom a lot though in my early years. Well, I was part of this as a player. So I've lived it. I've been the Victorian boy that's come up, moved to Queensland where the club invested in me as a player, a 17-year-old, come through the difficult years where I was an inconsistent young player, and a group of us stayed together and had success. So, but does anyone remember 1993 Brisbane Bears? No. Or 94? No. And this is pretty much what we're going through in the history timetable. We're living the week to week of it, and that's no fun for anyone, let alone the senior coach. But I really enjoy working with these boys, and I can see the future, and I love working with them. And they're a great group of kids, and they're all committed, and they're committed together, and they've committed by signing on, and they're committed by staying the course like the rest of us.
Sorry, mate. What shows you then that there's been development? I guess in this interim period, you can't just sort of say in 3 years' time they'll automatically get better. There must be something that's
we've got a heavy development focus. There's no doubt in everything we do. We go through the boring components of the skill development planning if you want, but we break down contested offence and defensive skills, and they train and get measured on a vision, show their improvement. Actually, in the process now of going back through their old vision and show them all the times they used to fall over and now more so keeping their feet in contests, and all those little wins along the year add up. And we know the story now. We've been there before. I was a player, we used to beat up on the young Geelong team, then 4 years later they were beating up on the old Brisbane team and everyone else, and the cycle just keeps going. But unless you want to live this cycle, you probably won't get to the top. You'll either stay around the middle. So as a club, we don't want to stay around the middle, which is where we were when I took the job over. Pretty much a middle-class team. So that's the path we're taking. No apologies for that, I'm sorry. But unfortunately with that comes a little bit of pain as far as win-losses. But I tell you what, it's the excitement of seeing new faces and watching them develop is what our fans should be really signing up for right now, and knowing that they've been there for the journey.
On that note, Leppa, what do you think of the AFL cycle, how they do that? You know, you sort of go like this from the bottom to the top, and every sort of 10 years the fans of each club are expected
That's right.
to wait.
We've got no choice. Got no choice. American football, they go to university, they come out at 22, they're more mature, they're bigger bodies, and they can make an impact straight away. Ours don't. You know, the best result a key position top pick has had is 10 goals in his first year. That is in the history of games. So how is Josh Shackey expected to do any more than that this year? So the numbers and the history are there. So it's almost boringly predictable as far as insiders go, as far as the cycle goes. But living it is the hardest part. I'd love to have Josh Shackey coming in at 22, not 18. But the problem is we get him at 18. That's the time we get him, and they're not ready yet. Eric Hipwood has grown 3 centimetres this year. So you've got a young key forward who you haven't played yet, but he's still growing. So that's, you know, you're dealing with that stuff. So he's got coordination issues still as far as growing whilst he's getting older. So you're asking why we're not winning games. Well, geez, we've got this kid that's going to be a star in a few years. But he's still going through his development phase too, and I'd love to play him and get him out there as well. We've got a really young team, obviously, but they're the sorts of things we're dealing with.
Based on that, do you think the AFL needs to reconsider how they go about bringing young kids through the game to make it more evenly competitive?
Well, you can't just stop the draft period go from 18 to 22. There's just a 4-year gap, right? You can't do that. Do we need a better secondary tier? Possibly. If you want to invest in young talent and draft, you might have to go down and do it for a few years, get some talent. If you don't, you go down the mature path, get some trade-ins and do that. And then you've got salary cap issues potentially. And we've got a great history up here of attracting big-name talent. That's for sure, over a 20-year period. So if we want to go down that path, the club, it hasn't been successful for us. It's been successful for some. And even particularly free agents don't necessarily use this as a destination club. So they're the things we think about when we decide to go down our path of youth. So I know this is a bit of a history lesson today, but I only state that because it's really important to know what's going on in the present.
This season, Justin, how's morale in the group, and how are you as a coach finding motivation week to week to get them out
But
there?
we get the little wins. I mean, I know the fans aren't getting them, but we get them. We get them constantly throughout the week, and we get the encouragement by our players and their development. They're always here on their day off, our boys. There was not one player that came in on their day off when I got to the job. They're always in here now. So these are the things in the background that you've got a group of motivated, young, hungry players that want to succeed. So, as I said, things that people don't see, but things I see that I get really motivated by.
So in fact, they're motivating you, by the sounds of it.
Well, we have to. You have to motivate each other, and I get motivation from Swanee and Lee as well, and that's what we're here to do.
Just on Lee, obviously, it must be good for the kids to see the big boy, the one with the biggest name, come in and really give you a huge endorsement.
Well, he is. He's
see that.
yeah. I mean, Lee's in this build with us. I mean, we all are. I mean, that's the facts of it. As I said, most teams are able to do this without too much fanfare. I mean, I signed up for this job the same time Richo did at St Kilda and also Roosie at Melbourne, that are also going through similar things. You know, you could argue who's got the more mature list, who's got the less, what should we all be doing, but for some reason there's a bit more heat on our footy club doing it, yet we're the youngest team doing it. So it's there's some things within that also. What are we getting compared to? That's the important part as well. And we all have to live up to our expectation, there's no doubt. And I want to exceed expectation for our group.